Behind me is the 2020 Mini Cooper SE, and the E stands for electric. It only has 110 miles of range, and that is nowhere near enough.
No, you're wrong. This is Tommy, and today we are having this argument.
All right, let's do it from behind the wheel. $110 miles, Tommy. That is less than half of what a Tesla Model 3 will have.
I agree, but I think it's enough range, and I have some statistics to prove it.
So you're going to baffle me with numbers. Go for it.
Well, according to AAA,
yep,
the average American drives under 30 miles every day on an average of 2 trips for about 46 minutes of driving every day. Now that's the average American. There's a lot of Americans that drive many hours to work every day, right? There's also some Americans that just drive a mile or two to work. But if you average it all out, it comes out to just under 30 miles of driving on a daily basis, which means that 110 miles for the average commute is going to be just fine to get you there and back.
You know, Nissan tried that with the original Leaf and it didn't work for them, and it's not going to work in this case. Because let's face it, oftentimes you'll forget to charge, or you get a call from your friend or your loved one saying, hey, let's go out to dinner, or you got to pick up your laundry. And when this vehicle starts to get into the red zone, and what I mean by that is like the last 15, 20 miles, there is no gas station that you can drive up to and just fill it up again. You got to start looking for chargers, and then it's going to be how long before it charges back up?
With a small battery like this Mini E that's just over 32 kilowatt hours, you can go from 0 to 80% in just 35 minutes at a DC fast charger.
All right, once again, baffling me with numbers, but what if you want to charge it up completely? How long is that?
Okay, well, no one ever charges from 0 to 100%. Have you ever charged
How
from
long
0
is
to
that?
It's just over an hour.
And that's on a fast charger.
No, but that's silly. No one is ever charging from 0 to 100%. That's not a realistic scenario.
And let's talk about the different charging modes, right? It's actually charges at the same rate as the i3, because this is basically an i3 electric drive system, right?
Yeah, so underneath it's got the same drive unit as the i3, same charger, very similar, well, the same battery chemistry, a somewhat similar pack. Pretty much the components are the same as an i3, which is not a bad thing. And in this vehicle, it's small, it's light, it's zippy. This is not going to be a long trip cruiser, right? This is a commuter car, so 110 miles is just fine.
What I was getting at, Tommy, is, so that's on a 50
kilowatt.
Yeah, charge, right? But if you plug it into a 220, all of a sudden it goes to 3.5 hours. And if you plug it into a 110, when you're probably getting, what, 5 miles an hour of charge? That's a long time for 110 miles of range.
So in the back, you actually lose no cargo capacity because the battery lives underneath the vehicle. Once again, largely the same pack as an i3, but in a T configuration. Take a look at this. This is really cool. There's actually 2 different positions for the seats. So here's your standard position, and then if I just scoot that forward, I can actually raise up this little additional latch, and there you go. So there you can see there's 2 positions, which means I can store kind of larger items here.
Hey, why don't you go around and show them how much room I have back here?
Probably not. Probably not a whole lot would be my bet.
Not a whole heck of a lot. Well, I do love the second sunroof, right? There's 2 sunroofs, but I'd have to pretty much be headless and legless at 6'2" to feel comfortable back here. You know, for a short trip, like you're going to lunch with your coworkers, it's fine, but, you know, as a long-term backseat cruiser for tall people, it's probably not going to work out great. Real estate is about location, location, location. Electric cars are about range, 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 and I'll prove that to you, okay? We have 3 electric cars at the office right now, right?
Right.
We've got the Tesla Model X, which I tend to drive the most, so let's take that out of the equation, and that, by the way, has 325 miles of range.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got the e-Golf, which has how much?
Like 125.
And then we've got the Nero, which has how much?
238.
Which one does everybody drive?
Well, the Nero.
It's got usable range, right? So Nathan takes it home on the weekend. He can take it home, he can drive it around, he can bring it back to the office without fear of running out of juice.
Yes, but Nathan lives in South Denver, which is like 50 miles away from where we're at. Nathan is not your average U.S. commuter. He has got a long commute. To the average person who buys this car, who lives in an urban environment, 110 miles is fine. And if you have a 240, 220 volt outlet at home, you plug it in, totally full in just a few hours, and you can keep going.
All right, I'm going to give you this, Tommy. This will not be a main vehicle for most people, right?
Right.
Probably most Mini owners have another car in the garage, but nevertheless, if that car is in the shop, or if you want to take, which is really a fun car, I can give you that too, this is a really fun car, you're still going to be limited to only 110 miles, which realistically is more like, in a cold environment like where we live, let's call it 90 miles, right?
Right.
It's not grand.
Well, the thing is if you look back a few years ago when DC fast charger public stations were really non-existent, I think 110 miles was a big issue, but now Electrify America is popping up thousands across the US. No, this is going to be less and less of a problem, especially with a small battery pack like this, because it's going to charge pretty quickly. Yep. Granted, it's not, 3 minutes like a gasoline car, but it still is pretty zippy.
So you're saying if you love spending a lot of time in Walmart parking lots, which is where Electrify America is building out their network, or you love spending a lot of time at Walmart, this is a good car for that.
But the point is, you're only going to need those if realistically, Dad, you never drive more than 15 miles a day. You have a short commute, your chores are all in town. I've never seen you drive more than maybe 40 miles in a day, unless we're going to the mountains or something, in which case we have another car to take.
And this is built in Oxford.
On the same line as the other Minis, actually.
You'll note the yellow is now the color of electricity when it comes to Mini, so all these yellow accents, rear view mirror, on the wheels, that's showing you that it's electric. And the cool thing is I do have a little heads up display, so watch this. When I start it up, I get a funky noise, and ooh, it's like Star Wars.
Yeah, it's the combiner heads-up display, but on the inside, the electric Mini is basically the same as any other Mini. You've got your standard ring here on the center, your standard Mini infotainment system. You do have yellow accents across, but other than that, it's pretty much the same you come to find.
And you do have these kind of funky drive modes. Watch the Mini, because that's where it gets interesting. There it is. Look, the Mini changes with racing stripes down the hood. Yeah, and then the other thing about electric car miles is they're real miles, right? Like, what the distance of a mile is, and then there are electric car miles, and the two often don't correlate. They're not the same, right? And most of the time, electric car miles, for some mysterious reason, are much shorter than real miles. In other words, when it says it's got how much? 92 miles of range, it really has like 80 real miles of range.
Well, it depends. I mean, we've got several different drive modes in this Mini E, and if you're like today, cranking the AC, cranking the radio, you're going to use a lot of power. But if you put it in green plus mode,
yes,
you're going to use a lot less power. And in the wintertime, this car has a heat pump, which means you're not drawing as much power from a heater. So that range limitation is going to be significantly less in the wintertime. With a proper engineered vehicle, as more of these EVs are becoming, range is going to be less of a problem in the wintertime as they become more efficient.
The other thing that gives me pause in my argument, of course, is that this car starts at what? How much?
$30,000.
And with Mini still having their federal tax credits of $7,500, realistically, you're looking at a car that's going to cost you $22,500.
Right.
Which is, a Mini bargain. It's a lot of car for, for not a lot of money. And
we're talking about a vehicle that'll do 0 to 60 in the 7-second range, maybe even the high 6s. It's not going to be affected by altitude. It's got liquid-cooled batteries, right? So they're thermally controlled, so they're not going to overheat in the winter, and they're not going to overheat in the summer, and not going to be too cold in the winter. I think realistically that 110 miles of range is going to be pretty spot on for a long time in this car.
Yeah, and I would agree with myself and you, except for the fact that I know when the other electric vehicles that we have at the office start to get below, and this is crazy, I know it's crazy, like 50 miles of range, I start getting a little stressed, and when they get below 25 miles of range, I start getting very stressed, because once again, you can't just pull up to a gas station and go bloop, and 2 minutes later, you can be on your way.
Sure, but if you understand the vehicle and you know it's what it typically does, you can go pretty low. Like our editor, Zach, he consistently takes the e-Golfs down to 10-15 miles of range because he knows that computer is pretty spot on, and he's not going to run out.
I just think that we're at the dawn of the electric car age, and that people will be looking back upon us 20 years from now, heck, maybe even 10 years from now, and they'll be saying, can you believe that they only had 110 miles of range? How did they deal with that,
Or people are going to figure out, wow, 110 miles of range is realistically more than I need to go. It's an actual range number. It's what I'm realistically going to get. That's fine for me.
Well, we're back here in a little park in Miami. Manny flew us down here, guys, by the way, to test drive this and to review it. We have a full review of this, so if you're interested in the Mini Cooper SE, check out that review. We'll do a link in the comments below. And let's get out of the car and wrap this Know You're Wrong discussion up, Tommy.
Okay.
Well, there you have it, Tommy. We've got a small car with a small battery. Let us know in the comments below. Is 110 miles of range enough? Not enough for you? Or is Tommy right? Will 110 miles do for most Mini E owners? What do you think? And remember, check out TFLcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real world reviews. And you're still wrong, Tommy.